Let's talk about actually reaching out and contacting the brand to start your relationship with them. And most people just reach out to their marketing departments or advertisement departments. And don't get me wrong, you should definitely do that, but don't stop there. Now, I should also mention that many companies nowadays have somebody who specifically their job is to deal with people like us, the social media influencers, and they would actually have a title that would be called social media influencer relations manager, something very similar to that. Don't get them confused with people who are in charge of that brand social media that are really not the same because they're just taking care of their social media content. But reach out to somebody who is specifically in charge in creating deals and relations with the social media influencers. But my biggest the way that I've achieved the biggest success reaching out to the brands is through their PR teams, the public relations team. Now, I keep mentioning this, and it will continue to be the theme of this course. Things don't happen overnight with these brands. I mean, if they do, it's very, very rare. Most of the time, especially being a smaller influencer, you would have to build a relationship, much like with a human relationship, friendships and romantic relationships. It takes time to build trust. It takes time to kind of get to know each other and figure out where you're the best fit. So PR teams usually is the best way to start. And here's why. So first of all, PR teams are more accessible simply because they're not behind a big wall like marketing people and advertising people. Because, obviously everybody wants to get the money out of the brand. And so they kind of build a wall. A lot of times you can't contact the marketing department or advertising department through their website. But the PR team, you definitely can. So they're more accessible. It's kind of their job to interact with almost everybody out there, and they will make decisions whether or not they're interested. They're more open to conversations. They're more likely to jump on the phone with you. They're more likely to look at your media kit, and there's a separate course that I've had there. But please, please, please make sure to have a media kit before reaching out to any brand. It's like going for a job interview without a resume. So if you haven't taken that course, please check that out. I've already mentioned about the influencer relationship managers, and these are also the people who usually are part of the PR team. Sometimes they're part of the marketing team, and sometimes they're just kind of on their own. So it's really important that if you have reached out to a PR person, also ask them, hey, do you have somebody who specifically works with influencers? Now, don't give up on your relationship with a PR person. You should have as many different relationships as you can within the brand. Trust me, they're all part of the same team. At the end of the day, they all talk to each other, and if one has to walk you to introduce you to another, you definitely want to be on good terms with them. So make sure to keep all of the relationships that you're building, and I'm going to have a different part of this course that will explain why and how. Now, as I mentioned, marketing connections are very important, and they all have them. The PR people, the social media influencer relations people, they all have a relationship with their marketing team. A lot of times, it's their job to say, "Hey, listen, it sounds like this brand would be great to advertise with," and they will walk you to that person. They definitely have connections, and this is how you end up with a sponsorship deal. You create a relationship, you kind of get through all of the beginning stages of creating something with a brand, and then that's where you start actually talking to the marketing people. If the PR people believe that you're the right person, it is also important to ask PR people, hey, what kind of advertisement does your company do? Are they looking for influencers? Are just spending money on television? If so, and it depends on the relationship you establish, you can actually say, hey, listen, I know you guys spending this much money to reach so many people, but I can get you better reach for less money. This is actually how I got one of my sponsors. As I was invited to different events that they've participated in, I kind of started asking, what's your budget usually for having a display or a booth at the event? And they would tell me, and then I'd say, well, how many people you ended up, having walk by or stop by? And they'll tell me that. I'll be like, you know, for like half of that cost, I can bring you 3 times as many people. Here's the proposal. Think about it, because at the end of the day, I think you care more about getting people in and trying to either create reservations or sales or so forth, rather than actually participating in the event, because that involves a lot of logistics and travel and staff and all of that stuff. So, make sure that you kind of find out what the marketing department is all about, how they spend their money, and PR people usually kind of have a good idea of what it is. So it's important to create connections with the PR people first, and then kind of prep yourself to make a pitch to the marketing or advertisement department. And a PR department can tell you, hey, this is not the right time. We're at the end of a quarter. Our budget is all maxed out. But if you reach out in another few weeks, and this is the person who's actually working on new projects, they help you with timing. A lot of times, timing is the key. It's not even the value or the budget. It's a lot of times to come in to the right person at the right time. And once again, PR people will help you do that if they believe they can actually. Their brand can actually benefit from advertising and spending money with you and with your channel, your social media project. Now, I also should mention that PR teams have their own budgets. There's actually a way to get the advertisement money from the PR team. A lot of times they have budgets for the shows that they do and the events that they do, and many other ways how they advertise it. So, for example, if they have an event every quarter or so, or even every month, they will have a budget to advertise. So this is where you can come in and say, hey, listen, it looks like you're advertising this way and that way. Let me help you get the word out. You know how many people I have. You see how my audience is very involved. They're a perfect audience for you. Give me a chance. I can give you a really good deal for this much money. I will give you so much more exposure that you normally get. And that way they say, okay, yeah, we have a budget for that. We can spend that money on our own without really having to check in with the marketing department, because they have their own budget. And you can actually get relatively good and especially ongoing deal with the PR people. And once again, if they're happy with the way you've advertised their events, they will probably say, hey, listen, we should let this guy or gal advertise our products or services as well when we don't have a need to advertise our events. So, general concept here that I'm really trying to convey is to work with PR people and to make sure that little by little you take your time and you establish relationships with people. You establish a relationship with a brand. You get to know what they're looking for, what their needs are, what their budget is. Because at the end of the day, there are two things that that will make them go for this, right? One is that if you fit their budget, but most importantly, can you solve their problem? And the problem is usually promoting a product or service or event. If they see you're a great vehicle for them to get the word out about whatever it is that they're selling or promoting, and then at the same time, you're a better option versus just throwing money at the YouTube pre-roll ads or Google AdWords or doing advertisement on television, they will give you a chance, but only if they trust you, if they've established some sort of relationship with you. So try this out. Sometimes you don't get a reply. Sometimes you have to follow up. Sometimes you have to place a call. A lot of times you would meet them at different events and don't necessarily contact them by email, which is even a better way to do this. If you do see them at the events, if you do introduce yourself at the event, try to spend some time with them. Just spend some time with them. Ask them about their jobs and their kids and their hobbies and stuff like that. Just make a human connection. So as you're sending out emails and placing calls to advertising and marketing people, absolutely do not forget about the PR and social media managers at that brand, if they have it. If not, they're usually just one person taking care of everything, and it makes it much easier in some ways, but sometimes more difficult because that person has to handle so much more. So give this a try. Don't give up. Again, this is not very easy. This is essentially cold calling. But this is your best bet as a small social media influencer to penetrate a brand, to establish a relationship, and get that sponsorship deal.